Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Local Liberty. This is Brian and Shane. We are continuing our conversation about what individual freedom means in the local community and abroad. We have another local news topic we want to discuss briefly, and this comes from the Chronicle on Thursday, November 19th. I was very pleased to learn that UConn trustees will be creating a chief diversity officer. The reason why I was pleased to learn about this, Shane, is because I've been concerned about what I've been seeing on college campuses. And I haven't been on a college campus. I haven't been a student in, 13 years or so. It's been a while, 12 years, whatever.
I am a college student right
yes,
now.
so
I've gone
I'm
back to
interested
school.
to hear your up-to-date perspective on this.
All right.
But I was pleased because I've been concerned that the diversity that has been the diversity that I believe is the most important diversity of all is the diversity of thought, the diversity of ideas, the diversity of opinion, the diversity of perspective. And I have seen that been on such a huge slide for the last, seems to be really accelerating in the last 5 years or so, but it's probably been a long-term slide. That diversity of ideas is just taking, it's not even on anybody's radar anymore because we're more concerned with things like safe zones and whatever other absurdity we can come up with next. So, so I'm glad and I'm hopeful now. Now I see the picture of a white female, a black female, a brown male, and a white male as the picture above the caption. I'm a little concerned that the diversity they're talking about is not quite a diversity of ideas. But Shane, what is your perspective on, you're on campus today. Can we expect the Chief Diversity Officer to bring a renaissance of free thought back to UConn?
Wow. Okay, first of all, I don't go to UConn. I go to Eastern Connecticut State University, and I go to Quinebaug Valley Community College. So I can only speak about those two campuses. Brian, I understand why you find this ridiculous. In some sense, I find it ridiculous too, because when you waste money on these kind of positions, this is going to be a top-tier management position according to the article, right? So this person's probably be paid quite a bit of money to do something.
Six figures.
Possibly,
multiple
right?
six figures, most likely.
That's just another person in the administrative bureaucracy, where it's not another student going to school, it's not another teacher teaching, and that's what education is about. When you have these side things going on, I understand why people want them. They think, oh, well, diversity is good, so let's get someone in there to help that out. But again, this should be a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach. Because when you just force it on people, it doesn't work. The reason there is a diversity officer now, you know why there is a diversity officer? Because there's already diversity on the UConn campus. It's already a very diverse place. So it's already been accepted by the local community. And now they're bringing it in after effect. Look how diverse we are. We even have a diversity officer who didn't have anything to do with creating diversity in the first place. They only came in after the fact, and now there's a top-tier management position. If you try to force diversity on people, if you try to have affirmative action on these things, it creates resentment, it creates things that wouldn't occur naturally. I'm all for diversity. Actually, from an educational standpoint, diversity in the classroom is very good. The classrooms that are more diverse tend to be better educationally. Let me speak not just from a group perspective, but let me speak from my own perspective. So ECSU and QVCC, those are the two places I go. I find so far my experience at ECSU to be less interesting in the classroom. And why they're less interesting is because everyone's the same. They're from similar backgrounds, they're from similar ages. So when we have discussions in the classroom, there is less actual thought. There is less diversity of opinion because everyone is the same background and they're the same educational system growing up. They're all from the families of white middle class parents. Blah blah blah. QVCC on the other hand is a very diverse environment. You have people from all socioeconomic backgrounds, people of different age groups, ethnicities, and the internal dialogues in class, the group discussions are much more informative because you have a much broader range of viewpoints, and a lot of the older folks actually know what they're talking about because they've lived in the real world. So they have real world experience to bring to the classroom and real world experience to talk about, which influences the other students in the classroom. So that is beneficial from an educational perspective, but that happened naturally. and these things and these kind of social changes happen naturally. The diversity officer after the fact. I mean, what are they going to do now? It's already really diverse.
I have, yeah, you're absolutely right about a diversity of the source of where people are coming from, whether it's race, culture, age,
Right.
wealth. These things do all contribute to the potential for the real diversity that counts on a college campus, which is a diversity of ideas and thought and opinion and expression. Those things all are a good recipe for creating that diversity. However, the environment that's in college campuses today, and this is kind of like the chief diversity officer has a ring to it to me, kind of like the Department of Justice at the federal government level, or the Freedom Act, or the Patriot Act. When you see certain words, your alarm bells need to go up, because the diversity that they want to create on here is purely the most superficial diversity you can think of, which is just which skin color somebody happens to be, which country they happen to be from. That's not real diversity. The real diversity is the environment that creates a richness of thought where people can actually grow. And this movement of safe zones, unless this chief diversity officer, unless the first thing that this person says when they get in says the idea of safe zones is utterly ridiculous, then this person is going to be a waste.
Can you describe to our audience what a safe zone is?
Sure, good point. A safe zone is this new concept that, and I mean, I'm really not even the authority to be defining what this is, but as I understand it, it is an environment where basically you cannot be, where you're protected from being exposed to anything that you might find mildly or severely uncomfortable or insulting or offensive or dangerous or thought-provoking even. So a safe zone is basically an environment where you're going to be treated like a 3-year-old. And that is what, this is like official, I don't want to say doctrine, this is official policy that's being created on major universities all over the place now. In teachers and faculty are being trained on microaggression. Microaggression is a fun new term for a perceived slight that you may be subjected to that you can then turn into a week-long protest. So that's the direction that these universities are heading in. Not to mention we could talk about other things like taking $50,000 a year from poor, unsuspecting young people. But this is just, the fact that there is even something called a chief diversity officer is a signal that something is very, very wrong.
I don't think it's a signal that something is very, very wrong. I think it's people with good intentions that are misguided in how things actually work in the real world. I understand, like again, I understand when the people look at our past of the United States, they look at the South, they look at segregation, they look at these things and they go, wow, that was really horrible, so obviously the solution is this. The solution is diversity, but the solution was just tolerance of other people. Right, it wasn't only the fact that people were living together; it was people living together and they tolerated each other, right? And people came to accept that, through slow social change. Nowadays, I think social change happens at a faster rate. For example, you see that with the acceptance of homosexuality nowadays. That's been a very rapid transition from 30 years ago. You could say whatever you want about someone that was gay. It was perfectly acceptable. You could shun them. They were outcast, etc., etc. And now that's not the case. That happened though through social change, through people changing their views and influencing other people. Then after the fact this all happened, then you see politicians coming into the fray going, oh, well now I've evolved on the issue. Oh, now gay marriage is cool, even though 2 years ago it wasn't. 90% of politicians like 5 years ago are against gay marriage. Now suddenly almost all the Democrats are for it. A lot of the Republicans now like, yeah, well, the states decide. I mean, it's so hilarious that people don't see through this transparency. It's like, this change has already happened, and now Hillary Clinton is trying to put her stamp on it after the fact. You didn't do anything. It was a bottom-up process, not a top-down process, which is, I think, how things should be done, and why this this is problematic and also a possible waste of resources. Though, again, the idea of diversity does, in an educational sense, have an effect on the classroom. It matters. Some of the ways they're going about it, though, they don't make sense to me.
So, yeah, I mean, this is sort of, I keep talking about it, and someday I am actually going to do it, opposite day episode. This is another one, opposite day. The more edicts that come from the chief diversity officer, the less diverse the campus is. The more they pay this guy, the more the salary is, the more the staff is, the more effort they put into this. Your diversity is inversely proportional to the amount of work that comes out of your chief diversity officer. So,
Wow. There's one other thing I wanted to touch on.
Go ahead.
In the second half of the article, it talks about a few other things. There was a student apparently who had written on his door, "Kill Paris." I guess he was perhaps a Muslim student. Right after the Paris attacks happened, and now police are investigating the incident. Here's where my problem comes into play. They're investigating it as a possible hate crime. I just wanted to touch on the concept of hate crimes. Hate crimes aren't crimes; they're thought crimes. You cannot hold someone accountable for what they think. It's actions that matter. This guy messed up somebody's property. That's what he should be held accountable for. Maybe you can even add psychological harm in there, perhaps. But the hate crime idea is just silly. If someone kills someone, they kill them. It doesn't matter if they kill them because they're white, black, or otherwise. Because trying to figure out what they actually thought can be so difficult and problematic. And it leaves us open to the idea, as technology improves and it gets better, maybe someday they can start reading people's minds, and they can then attach, stuff to the brain and do brain scans and go, oh, look, this region of the brain is acting up, so he's obviously aggressive. This leads to bad outcomes, thinking of crimes and thoughts as existing on the same plane of existence. They're not the same thing. Actions are what matter. So I hate the concept of hate crimes, and again, it stems from a good place, I think. People are like, oh, I don't like racism. I don't like bigots. I think it's bad. It's wrong. I think it leads to bad outcomes in society. It hurts people. But then they take this leap that's not helping the situation, in my opinion.
The way you deal with what we would call a so-called hate crime, as you accurately put it, is a thought crime, or so you find somebody's actions, or you find somebody's deeds, or thoughts, or opinions, or words to be distasteful, or just not in accordance with your beliefs. The way you deal with that is you disassociate. That is the peaceful means. That is the cultural means of handling things that we would call hate crime. Oh, you painted some horrible symbol on somebody's door. Well, I don't want anything to do with you anymore because you're not the type of person I want to be around. Not, oh, you painted something and now you're a criminal. Gee, that kind of sounds like you painted a mural on the side of a building and now you're a criminal. So, disassociation and association on voluntary terms, that is the peaceful means of moving a culture, moving a society in the direction you want it to move. And use your powers of persuasion to tell somebody why, or to tell others why what somebody just did is wrong.
Right,
or
persuasion.
Not just say wrong, it's bad. Because we use the terms right and wrong here in the sense of morality, and they have a very specific meanings. But yes, persuasion.
And my meanings might be different than yours, though, Brian, so...
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's it from me on this episode. Thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing what comes out of the Chief Diversity Officer, as I'm sure you all do as well, and we will keep an eye on this. Thanks for listening to Local Liberty. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Localliberty.org is our website. Take care.